Pardon the wrestling, but it's time for your daily update in the world of professional wrestling, which means it is time for a daily update on CM Punk. And this time, that update involves WWE as details emerged late yesterday afternoon that he was backstage at WWE Raw. Also, Triple H announced a brand new championship on Raw last night, and we've got the latest details on that, and the WWE Backlash Card in Puerto Rico is starting to take shape with less than 2 weeks to go. But before we get started, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as that will help others find this content just like you did. And if you want a daily update of professional wrestling news straight to your YouTube feed, hit that subscribe button, as that is the easiest way to stay caught up in the busy world of professional wrestling. Before we get into the big items, let's talk about a couple little things that happened over the last few days. We're going to start off with AEW's potential new show that is happening on Saturdays. And that show is potentially called AEW Collision, which is at the moment set to start on June 17th in Chicago at the United Center, and has been rumored to be centered around CM Punk and his return. Now, there hasn't really been entirely new details in terms of the AEW coming out and saying that this is actually happening. They haven't done that yet. Tony Khan is going to be speaking at Dynamite this week, so maybe we will hear about it on Wednesday. We don't know. But what we do know is that Andrew Zarian of the Wrestling Observer has reported that AEW Collision will be taking place on TNT. Now, we knew it was going to be on the Turner Broadcasting Network. We didn't know exactly which one, whether it was going to be TBS or TNT, but it looks like it's going to lock itself down on the Rampage Network, TNT, starting in June. Again, we haven't heard an official start date yet from Tony Khan, from AEW, but all belief is on June 17th, centering around CM Punk's return. But we don't know what's going on with CM Punk, but we'll get into that here in just a few moments. Next up, earlier this month, the Dyad had came out and said that they had requested the release from WWE and NXT, and Rip Fowler took to Twitter yesterday to update the world on where they were at with that release request, and this is what he had to say. Today, WWE have denied our release, which was requested on April 3rd. On the 15th of October, we will be free agents once again. I personally want to thank all of our fans for your continued support. It means a lot to both of us, especially during times like these. We'll see you on the 16th. Now, they appeared last week on NXT in a triple threat tag team championship match with Gallus and the Creed brothers. They ended up losing that match. Now, with the announcement from Rip Fowler saying that their contracts are ending in October and that we'll see you on the 16th, which references the day after their contract ends, you got to wonder, are they being frozen? Are they getting sat at home until that contract runs up? Are they going to be written off TV? We don't know entirely what's going on, especially with the draft coming up this week. It may lend itself to perfect timing with this, where they just kind of be dropped off the TV completely and take the storyline elements out of it and not have to worry about it and just let them sit at home for the next few months. This is a way to, I guess, devalue them as they head towards free agency. This isn't really an uncommon thing for them to do. Don't necessarily agree with it. If you have someone that's not happy, just let them go wrestle somewhere else instead of sitting at home for the next 5 months. But not here or there, but that's just an update on the Dyad and where they currently stand within WWE. Next, Jerry Lawler is back in the news, and for good reasons here. Jim Ross took to Twitter yesterday announcing an update on his longtime friend and former broadcast partner. And here's what JR had to say about the King's current status. Had a great 1-hour convo today with Jerry Lawler, who's recovering from the effects of a stroke that he suffered back in February. Jerry's voice seems to get stronger the longer we spoke. The King will undergo a procedure next week to help with his situation. It's great to hear the King is recovering just nicely. Strokes are not easy to overcome, so any positive news is great news, and we continue to wish for the King's speedy recovery. And last, before we get into the big news, we got a huge rematch set for Triple Mania 31 in July in Tijuana, Mexico. If you enjoyed Kenny Omega versus Vikingo on Dynamite, good news for you, because you're going to get another dose of that here at Triple Mania, as it has been announced that the Mega Championship will be on the line between El Hijo del Vikingo and Kenny Omega at Triple Mania this year. I'm going to do everything in my power to watch this thing live. It's going to be another big time match between these two, and I cannot wait to watch these two try and top what they did on Dynamite, because that was a fantastic match. Can't imagine what they'll do for Triple Mania. Last night on Raw, we saw a clearer vision for what the Backlash card will look like in Puerto Rico, and here's what the current lineup holds for the next Premium Live event. We got Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar headlining the show, most likely. After that, we got Matt Riddle, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn taking on the Usos and Solo Sikoa in a 6-man tag. Rhea Ripley will be defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Zelina Vega. Seth Rollins will be going one-on-one with Omos. Austin Theory will be taking on Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed in a triple threat match for the United States Championship. Bianca Belair will be defending her Raw Women's Championship against IYO Sky, and then Damian Priest will be taking on Bad Bunny in a street fight. Now, those last two matches, we did get confirmation through last night's story developments. We'll talk about Bad Bunny and Damian Priest first. I think everyone believed that this was heading towards a tag match coming out of WrestleMania. Dominic Mysterio and Damian Priest versus Bad Bunny and Rey Mysterio just made all the sense in the world. And it being a street fight, you can still kind of do that vicariously by having so many shenanigans happen, which it being a street fight means there's going to be some shenanigans. It also means with Bad Bunny being in Puerto Rico and this being a Triple H led PLE and not a Vince McMahon PLE, that you actually see the hometown hero get to conquer, and I believe we'll see just that with Bad Bunny not only hosting it but competing in Puerto Rico, and that's a huge thing for him to be able to pull off. And he's shown to be pretty adept at this wrestling thing too, just like Logan Paul. I mean, I would say Logan Paul's shown a lot more because he's also had a lot more opportunities, but Logan Paul is a pretty freak athlete, and he's been able to prove just that. But Bad Bunny's shown that he gets the wrestling business, and I am very excited to see how this street fight goes down with Damian Priest. And I know there's going to be a lot of shenanigans, and everyone's going to be expecting that. And it's just going to be an absolute blast, I think, just watching these two go at it in a street fight. But I do want to talk about IYO Sky and Bianca Belair, as I think this is going to be a much more important match for the business in general. So with Bianca, she's over a year long as the Raw Women's Champion. It's getting to a point where I think it's time to take the title off Bianca. She's not had really many setbacks, or I would say even challenges as the Raw Women's Champion. She's gone through pretty much every challenger, competitor without much of a struggle. And it's time, I think, for Bianca to face that setback and have some kind of adversity, have some reason for me to root for her. It seems like it's just same old story every single week. There's not much development for her. She's been kind of the same character for so long at this point. It's become routine. And I think if IYO Sky wins it, it turns the Raw Women's Division a little on its head. May become the SmackDown Women's Division, who knows? But I would assume whoever's this champion is just going to stay on that brand and make it easier. But IYO Sky winning the belt will definitely further some story elements. So you give Bianca a big loss. Good. IYO Sky wins the belt. Now you have the continued fraction of Damage Control. And as much as I wish Damage Control had a much better run, we're at the point where it's time to break these girls up and let them go off on their own and do their own thing. And this is a chance for IYO Sky to really get that chance on the main roster. It'll also give her a chance to presumably have a feud with Bayley in this whole ordeal, because the idea here is IYO wins the title. Bayley gets a little jealous. She couldn't win the big one against Bianca, but IYO could. She's supposed to be IYO's mentor, but IYO's eclipsed her in this regard. So you get that back and forth between two. I would assume IYO would become the babyface in that situation. Bayley's kind of at that, it's hard to root for her, at least kayfabe wise. And it'd be an easy match between the two right out the get. The one thing I don't like about that idea is that Bayley would lose that first offense, obviously, because you don't want IYO losing the belt right away. Again, you also don't want Bayley continue to take these losses and not get anything important out of it. I can't think of an important victory she's had since she's returned last year at I believe it was SummerSlam. So it's been a while that we've seen Bayley really have a meaningful win, and that's the only thing I don't like about the idea. But it also furthers a story, and you don't necessarily have to do IYO versus Bayley right away either. So there is that. Like I said, I want to see IYO take the title off Bianca. Regardless, this has the potential to be the contender for match of the night, and if they get the chance to do it, I think they absolutely could. However, last night there was an announcement bigger than what Triple H did at the start of the second hour, and that was announcing the new World Heavyweight Championship. I got to read from my notes here because there's some good stuff here that I don't want to miss here. So objectively, I think this is a pretty good looking belt. And of course, Your opinion may differ if you really hate the WWE logo in the middle of it. Personally, I'm reserved to the fact that this is just going to be part of the main titles forever. When you see Patrick Mahomes at the Super Bowl parade, constantly on ESPN, holding a huge WWE logo, it's hard for someone to ignore that. So it's hard for WWE to say, hey, we should have a title belt that has a smaller version of our logo. So this is expected for me at this point. And I think it looks great the way they did it. It looks like a modernization of the World Heavyweight Championship belt that they did use during the Ruthless Aggression era. So I'm very much looking forward to how they end up booking this, but let's get a little further here. So the title will be determined at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia at the end of May. Wish it was determined somewhere else, but it is what it is. Night of Champions is probably the most apt way to crown a new champion. So the reason behind the introduction of this championship has currently been universally panned, and I believe it's for good reason, because even though Triple H did not say it, this comes off as kind of a consolation prize, because Roman has essentially outsmarted WWE and successfully defended this championship for over 3 years, right? So the way he introduced it is, he said Roman's been champion for over 1,000 days, which is very impressive, and that Roman has negotiated his way to not being present often, not having to defend the title, which, just from a kayfabe standpoint, I don't understand how that would work. How can you negotiate? Why would WWE, the company, want their champion not to be there that often? I don't understand what WWE gains out of that, but moving on, he said this is bad for the WWE, which it is, and the fans, which is why when Roman gets drafted to either show, he and his title will stay on that show, and the other show will get this new World Heavyweight Championship. So this leads to some very interesting things that will have to happen. One, Cody Rhodes will not be on the brand that this title is a part of, because to finish his story, it needs to be the WWE Championship. But at the same time, Cody cannot be on the brand as this championship because A, it goes against that whole finish the story thing, and B, it will sound like it's not that important to him if he comes out and says that I need to go after Roman's title. Why is Roman's title more important than this new title that's supposed to be equal? Now we have Roman on SmackDown or Raw eventually with 2 title belts. I would assume this means that Roman's title is going to get merged into one, and he'll either carry a brand new belt or he'll just drop the Universal title or the WWE title and just carry one of those belts around. I'm interested to see if they do revamp that look as well, or just keep the black strap WWE Championship. And I'm fine with that. If they want to keep it that way, that's the current iconic look, and it's the most mainstream looking one. So I'm cool with that. If they want to do that, he doesn't need to carry around 2 belts. It makes it look like they have 3 titles to go after, which doesn't make sense either. So very interested to see how this all shakes out. And you really have to watch this segment to understand how almost ridiculous it kind of sounds, the way Triple H has to sell it. Seth did a much better job at selling it later in the show, but this really felt like they were hamstrung by the fact that Roman had these 2 belts, and they had no idea how to split these belts off. So their elongated way of making this happen was creating a reason for the draft and then using the draft as a way to introduce a new belt, which, whatever, doesn't make sense. And I'm assuming you're still going to have the tag team titles being combined, because they didn't mention anything about that. That makes sense, right? To have 2, you're going to have 2 main titles. Why wouldn't you have 2 tag team titles in? Now you're just getting off into, you can continue to play this game. And lastly, it's not a day in professional wrestling if CM Punk is not discussed, and it's almost as if he's planning a comeback here very soon. But Punk is back in the news because if you hadn't heard, WWE was in Chicago last night, or to be very specific, we're in Rosemont, Illinois last night at the Allstate Arena. And CM Punk happened to show up backstage at the Rosemont Horizon, also now known as the Allstate Arena. I always say that, I don't know, just whatever. But at the Allstate Arena, CM Punk was inside for at the very least 20 minutes, and he was seen to be talking with The Miz at one point and Triple H, Paul Levesque at another point. it seemed to be at least reported by Dave Meltzer that he spent most of his time speaking with Triple H. Very interested to see how that conversation went, considering I believe he's a contracted talent to another wrestling promotion. So if it was just to clear the air, really no one knows at this point. Will we know for a while? Who knows? We really don't know the true nature of his appearance there. It seems to be the most popular opinion is that, at least I guess among fans, that he was there to clear the air, but the most popular opinion amongst the WWE talent seems to be that he's trying to find his way back into the company, which would be, again, we're led to believe that he's still contracted to AEW, that this AEW Collision Saturday night show is being sold as a CM Punk led show to the Turner team. So what is going on? This is the moment for the Becky. What is going on here? We have no idea why CM Punk was at WWE Raw backstage. Sure, he's got some friends still over there, I would imagine, but how many times have they been to Chicago over the last 12 years, and how many times has he been there before? That's where it becomes a story. So, and other people may say, oh, well, Britt Baker was at an NXT, or Ricky Starks was at the Royal Rumble. Why is that not as big news? And if I have to explain why Ricky or Britt being at a WWE show, either in the audience or backstage, is not as big of a story as CM Punk being backstage at a WWE show, I don't know if you've been paying attention over the last few years, because they kind of had just a little bit of a falling out and maybe a little bit of courtroom, confrontations. So if you need that explained to you, I guess I can do that for you, but I don't know why I wouldn't. But that'll do it today for Pardon the Wrestling Daily Update. It was a big one today because we had a brand new belt to talk about. CM Punk, of course, the Backlash card starting to shape up. Again, if you like this content, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel, as that's the easiest way to help support us and help other wrestling fans find us. Again, I want to thank you for checking us out, and hopefully we can earn your subscription and continue to do so. And we will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.